much, Shay, my friends. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Shay, and today is the start of another vlog. If you don't know what I'm doing in the month of May, I am doing 1 week, 1 jar, where I take one of my jars that has a different category in it and I pull books out of them and read it. So far this month, I have pulled books out of new releases jar, which are 2025 releases, and I have pulled books out of the jars that I own. So I've done my own jar. So this week, I am doing my backlist jar. So this jar is very hefty. This holds every single book that came out in 2024 or earlier that I don't own in any sense, but I'm still interested in reading. Okay, so there's a lot of books in here. It's quite a hefty jar. I will say that I'm gonna need an audiobook. I just am not in the mental headspace to read physically, so I am going to need an audiobook. So if I pull a physical read, I may put it back in and read y'all, but let's hope it doesn't come to that. Okay, all right, here's the jar, friends, and here's my hand going into it, and we are gonna go off on a great journey together. I hope. Okay, I have a piece of paper. This is it. Okay, so this is, do y'all see that? Twisted Love. That's a very interesting choice. I have already read this book, so we can put that away. I don't know how that's still in the jar because I cleared the jars. I must have missed it. I read that book. Didn't I read that book? Or did I read Hold, let me look this up. I'm pretty positive this is the book that I read by Anna Huang. Yes. This is the book that I read by Anna Huang and gave 2 stars, and I was like, I'm not continuing with the series. Alright, here we go. Ooh. This is The Serpent and the Wolf. This is a romantasy book. I don't know much about it. I can see the cover in my head. What an interesting choice. I don't know if this is a series or a standalone. I'm not sure. I added it to my jar because I heard a lot of people talking some really great things about it. So hold please. Let me see if this is what I think it is, and I will return momentarily. Okay, so this is the book I thought it was, and it is the first book in a series. So here I go, starting another series. I don't know what it's about, but again, that's fine. Romantasy. Okay, guys, here we go. I mean, not that I haven't read romantasy and enjoyed it before, but this is just such an interesting pick at this point in my life. But okay, we're gonna do it. We're going to do it, and I will check in when I get some into this book. Okay, let's chat. My husband is mowing the grass, so I don't know how good this audio is gonna be. And if you're gonna hear the lawnmower. So I am maybe 65-ish% into The Serpent and the Wolf. Went to the beach yesterday, that's why I'm red. I also got a chance to listen a lot to the audiobook at the beach, the drive back from the beach. So, thoughts. I added this book to my backlist because I had heard a lot of people say a lot of great things about this book. And now that I'm reading it, I'm just thinking it's just so. It honestly reads to me, like the characters and the story and the setting reads to me very YA. That is unfortunate, but that's just how I am feeling. As this book is marketed as slow burn and enemies to lovers, neither of which I think it is or does well. The setting of the story is we open up the book with our main female character. Basically, it's her wedding night. She's just been married off. Of course, she doesn't want to be married to this man. It's an arranged marriage. And she basically, when he comes into the wedding chamber, she ties him up, tries to slit his throat, and flees. She doesn't kill him, but she flees. Okay? And then, of course, he's going to find her, and they are from kind of rivaling nations, and she has been sold to him to marry her so that they can form some sort of alliance. So he finds her and brings her back to this kingdom, and they come up with a deal where she will stay married to him for a certain amount of time, and then he will grant her an official divorce. There are politics at play here between her kingdom. Her parents are dead, her mother has died, and the ruler of her kingdom is her brother, who we know that they don't get along. There's some kind of animosity there. But we also know that she has magic, and she thinks when her mother died, the curse passed on to her, and her mother gave her magic, and she hates her mother for that. So we get a lot of magic use. My problem with this book, number one, is I don't think the world building is that well fleshed out. I would like to see more history of the world and the magic in the world and how the magic came about, history, those kinds of things to kind of build up the scene and the setting. We don't get a lot of that, so I don't think it's a very strong fantasy element. I also, again, if you market something as enemies to lovers or slow burn, I expect both of those things, and neither of those things do I think that this book has done. In an enemies to lovers story, I expect for a lot of the book for these characters to have significant animosity towards each other. That's how I feel. That they should truly be enemies, and you should see that tension between the two of them, the animosity between the two of them. It should be palpable in between the pages. However, this enemies situation only lasts like 50 pages. I don't know. It doesn't last very long. And while she doesn't necessarily like him, she doesn't dislike him. So that to me is not a true enemies to lovers. Let's talk about slow burn. If you're going to market something as slow burn, I personally like my slow burn to be very, very slow burn, where you feel the angst, you feel the tension between the two characters, but they don't get together. It takes them a very, 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 very long time to get together. Now, some people don't like that, and that is fine. That's personal preference, but slow burn to me, that's what that means. You're seeing a lot of angst, you're seeing a lot of tension, you are seeing a lot of things between the two characters that makes you root for their relationship, but then they don't get together until like very later on. That's not been the case with the story. This story has their two main characters flirting from like, I don't know. I like the tension and the angst and the, do they like me? Do they not like me? Ooh, do I like him? Do I not? I mean, I like it to go on for a long time. And when you obviously can see very early on that they kind of like each other and you don't really have any angst or tension, they're just constantly flirting and all of that, to me, that's not slow burn. That's just a, hey, I like you and I just haven't admitted it yet. Hey, I like you, I haven't admitted it yet. Hey, I like you and I haven't admitted it yet. So it just, I don't know. I don't classify it as slow burn. Maybe some people think that slow burn means the time to like when the book starts to when like there's actual some kind of spicy times, but to me, that's not slow burn. To me, when I think of slow burn, I really think of Mariana Zapata, who has a 600-page book where they're interacting and they're all these kinds of things, but they don't get together to the last little bit. I don't know. I like what I like. I guess there's different definitions of slow burn, but I would not say that this is particularly slow burn. But anyway, so I'm having my faults with it for sure. So we'll see. We'll see. I also don't, because they start flirting very, very close to the beginning of the book, and you know that they kind of like each other. I mean, she says she doesn't like him, but of course you can see, like, you wouldn't treat somebody the way that she is treating him if you didn't like that person. So the flirting, the everything, I just feel like I didn't have time to build this relationship, build these characters up to being together for the relationship to make any kind of sense to me. So as far as a romantasy book, I don't think it's doing the fantasy well, and I don't think it's doing the romance well. I'm going to keep reading. I'm going to see if at the end of the book my thoughts have changed, but those are my thoughts as of right now. All right, I will see you guys shortly. Okay. So I finished Serpent and the Wolf, and I think that I'm landing on 3 stars for this book because of everything that I mentioned previously, but also because this book was very predictable. And I feel like every fantasy romance kind of follows the same plot. And so I feel like if you're going to have a samey plot or identical to a lot of other fantasy romances where it's very predictable, you have to have something that stands out, whether that be character, tones, world building, whatever it may be. And this one, it just did not stand out. But I'm going to give it 3 stars. I don't know if I will continue on when the next book comes out. It just depends on how much I actually remember, but I just didn't find the characters super memorable, and I didn't really jive with the romance, so I probably will leave that one alone. But that means it is time to draw another book out of this backlist jar. Okay. Here we go. Here we go. I have this. I don't know if you can see. Y'all, The Midnight Feast. Is that what that says? The Midnight Feast. So this is by Lucy Foley. I have read the guest list by her. I I think that's the only Lucy Foley I have read, but interested for another standalone mystery thriller kind of book. And interestingly, Lucy Foley is actually going to be in a town close by me doing a interview on this book. And if I had pulled this one earlier, I may have thought about going, but my life is so busy and I cannot go to that. But that's interesting because I have thought about the Midnight Feast this month. Interesting. Okay, so fantastic. I will read that and come back with my thoughts. The Midnight Feast by Lucy Foley. Let's chat about it. So I'm 50% in. This book has a very low rating on Goodreads. It's like a 3.58, and I haven't looked at any reviews so as not to like color my perception of the book. First, let me say that this book obviously is like the same thing that most mystery thrillers have, and that's when something has happened in the past that is now affecting the present. And so we are getting perspectives of the past and perspectives in the present. So it is opening week at this highfalutin resort with a bunch of rich people. Obviously you have to be rich to be able to afford to go here. And a lot of people in the town that this resort is in are very, very upset because they have taken business from them, and the resort owner has not been the best to the neighboring townspeople. Okay, so we're at opening weekend and we are following multiple perspectives. We are following first the founder and the owner of this exclusive manor. We are following her husband. We are following a dishwasher that works at a place, and we are following a guest that is staying there. And we know right off the bat that multiple characters have some kind of secrets in their past, or they know something that they shouldn't know, multiple of them. And we don't really know what happened in the past, but we know that it's going to collide here in the present, that there are secrets, right? Somebody has a secret on somebody and we don't know what that is. And as of right now at the 50% mark, we do not even know who has died. Obviously somebody has died here at opening weekend of this manor. I think that a lot of books that have rich, unlikable characters get low ratings. That's my view right now. If you think about like dark academia novels who have a lot of unlikable characters and you look at the ratings of those books, they're typically low. And that's just because of the unlikable character aspect. I think it takes a certain type of reader to like an unlikable character. Okay, I don't necessarily know that I'm attached to any of these characters, but I am looking forward to figuring out what's actually going on and solving the mystery element of who has died, who did it, who done it. As I think a lot of mystery thrillers, that's what we go for, right? So the characters aren't bothering me as much, but I would like to see some things happen to certain ones. But I'm not having a terrible time with this. Not like I expected to, given its very low rating. I'm going to continue to read. The only other Lucy Foley book I have read is The Guest List, and I gave it 4 stars. I quite liked that one. But I'm going to continue to read, and I will let you guys know what I feel when I get done. So, The Midnight Feast. Let's chat. I think that, again, I agree with what I said earlier, that it's very difficult, I think, to get people to like books that have really unlikable characters, kind of like dark academia settings, or any character that's rich and unlikable. How about that? And that's what this book is. And while this book didn't do anything shocking, new, interesting, that I had never heard of before, I still was entertained and continued to be entertained. And while some of the twists and the reveals, of course, we saw it coming, I still was entertained by these perspectives, by what was going on in the story. So I'm gonna give it 4 stars. I thought it was fine. I'm not one of those ones that gets turned off, especially in a mystery thriller, about unlikable characters. Now, if I'm reading like a romance book or just a regular fantasy book or something else, I probably want one likable character. But in mystery thrillers, unreliable narrators, unlikable characters, give them to me. Book from this jar. Let's pick our next read. Hopefully in audiobook format. Okay, lots of papers. Okay, this is the Rom-Commerce, and I think this one is by Catherine Center. I read The Bodyguard by her, but I have not read anything else by her, I don't believe. Let's see if I can find the book, and I can. So, super excited. We're going into romance territory. I'm ready for it. Let's go. Okay, let's talk about the rom-comers. I actually did film a 50% update when I was in my car, but the audio was not very good on that. So I'm just going to tell you that I have finished it. And we are following two main characters. We have Emma, our main female character, and she has a goal of becoming a screenwriter. That's always been her dream. She loves to write, and she writes rom-coms. Well, unfortunately, she hasn't been able to really pursue her dreams because her dad had an accident that way in the past that requires a lot of care. So she has kind of taken time off of her life to take care of him and to kind of raise her sister up. So the deal is that she will take care of her dad for 10 years, and then her and her sister will switch, where she's able to pursue her dreams, and then her sister will take care of her dad for 10 years. But then this prospect comes about. Her high school boyfriend calls, who's actually still one of her best friends, and her agent, he says, hey, I have a really great opportunity for you. Come to Hollywood and help Charlie, who is a very famous screenwriter, fix this horrible rom-com that he has written. He's agreed to write this with you to make it better. Come. So with this being her chance of a lifetime, she switches things around with her sister and she goes out to Hollywood. And unfortunately, when she gets there, she realizes that Charlie, the famous screenwriter, has no idea she's coming and he did not agree to anything. And that's kind of where this starts. I loved this story, and this story would have been 5 stars if it wouldn't have been for the medical elements of this. Unfortunately, I work in the medical field, hence the scrubs that I'm wearing. And it's like when you watch something on TV and you know it's not accurate, it kind of stunts your enjoyment. So when I'm reading the same thing and I know that, like, no way this could happen, it's not accurate, it stunts my enjoyment. But I liked the romance portions of this. I liked our main character being really headstrong and saying what she felt and not being ashamed or scared to do that. I really enjoyed that. I just didn't, and I can't go into exactly what I didn't like about the book because spoilers, but I gave it 4 stars. I do really like Catherine Center's writing. I read The Bodyguard previously and also gave that one 4 stars. I really do want to read more of her Backlist because something about her writing is easy and I really fall in love with her characters and the way she writes her romances. Okay, my battery died before I could pick out of the Backlist jar. So, caveat, I'm going to need an audiobook. So I will pick books out of this jar until I can find an audiobook that I can get a hold of. At this point in time, I'm running out of credits. I don't have any other, so I need to find it on Hoopla or Libby. So we'll just pull until I can find one of these books from those sources. Okay, maybe I'll get a fantasy. I haven't gotten a fantasy in some time. Plenty of books to choose from here. Okay, this is it. Okay, this is, I don't know if I can see this. This is The Darkness Within Us, which is like the sequel to The Shadows. What's that book? I can't remember what the Shadows book by Trisha Levenseller. I'm not going to read this because at this point I want to reread The Shadows Between Us before diving into this one. So this is actually going to be like a sequel that I read one day, but not for this. And I'm actually going to remove it out of this jar. Uh-oh, papers are flying out. Okay. Papers are flying. Ah, here we go. Another one. Let's see. Okay. This is, can you see, An Inheritance of Magic. This is by Benedict Jaka. This is a paranormal book. Let me see if I can get a hold of it because I don't think I'm going to be able to. And again, I don't really want to pay a lot of money for it. So I'm going to not read that one. Let's pick another one. Okay. I feel like I gotta find one that I can find. All right. Okay. This is Dragon Rider. This is by Taryn Matheru. I don't know if I can find this one either. Let's see. Okay, I did find it. This is on Hoopla, for those that are wondering. So this is exciting. I did read Taron Matherew's other series, his YA series. Started like The Summoner. I didn't read some of the books, but I read the main series. There were some spin-off books or whatever, but I did not read that one. But I can get a hold of this one on Hoopla, so I'm gonna do that. I don't know what this one necessarily is about. It's got dragons, which is exciting, and fantasy. Yes, here we come. Some fantasy. Let's talk Dragon Rider by Taron Matherew. I'm 50% into the book. Let's try. So one thing that I have started doing is not refreshing myself on synopses before I go in to read the book. So at one point in time, long ago, when I added this book to my TBR, I had read the synopses, found that I was interested, and I did not reread that synopses prior to diving into the book. And I'm kind of using it as a test to see if the author is doing his or her job in engaging me in the story, and do I know what's going on in the story, that kind of thing. This book is very slow paced, and I think that that is a detriment to the book. I think it has fantastic characters, and I think it's going to lead me on a great journey. However, we are going at a snail's pace, and so I don't think that it's going to be a book for everyone. He also describes a lot of things. When I was reading it, it kind of reminded me of like Robert Jordan and Wheel of Time. Not the story, but just like the way the descriptions of everything are. Okay, so we are following our main character, Jai. And he has been taken basically as slave by these people who have conquered his nation and killed his emperor, who happened to be his father. So he's like third in line to the throne. And so everybody from his nation was taken by the enemy and all the children, and they will be raised and slaves to this enemy until they turn 20. And when they turn 20, they are released back to their nation or their homeland. And so he is 17, and his job is to basically wipe the butt of the very old ex-emperor. So this old ex-emperor, his son, is now emperor of this nation, and his grandson is the prince or the heir apparent to this kingdom. So things happen, and Jai comes across information that he should not know that leads us to believe that there's going to be some kind of treason to occur, and that's all we'll say for spoiler purposes. However, this is just moving super slow. At 25%, I thought about DNFing the book. But I was interested in Jai as a character enough not to do that. Okay? At the 50% mark, just a minute ago, I went back and I read the synopses of the story. And the reason for that is because I had to ask myself, I still at the 50% mark do not know what direction this book is going. So does the synopses tell me what the actual plot of the book is? Yes, we're kind of following Jai and the political movements of this nation, but we're just teetottering along, and there's not some overarching plot or goal that I see in progress. Okay? So I did go back and read the synopses, and the synopses didn't even start taking place until the 50% mark of the book. And so I still don't know at the 50% mark, though, where the plot is actually going. I mean, I have an idea of some things that could happen, but when you pick up a book and you're going to read a book, what you want is, of course my AC is going to turn on, so I'm going to hurry up. What you want is for that book to grip you, make you want to continue reading, like be so engrossed in these characters and plot that you don't want to stop reading. And at this point in time, there's nothing in this book that's doing that for me, and I think Taron Matherew just needed somebody to sit him down and say, hey, let's edit this. Let's make it shorter, more concise. At this point, we could have already trimmed probably 100 pages, moved the plot forward a little bit faster, and had a better story. So I am going to keep reading because, again, I'm interested in those characters enough to continue on. And so I am going to continue on for a little bit longer. But if things do not pick up anytime soon, then I will DNF, and I will come back here when that has happened or I have finished the book. Okay, Dragon Rider is now complete. I wound up giving this one 3 stars. I feel kind of the same as I did at the first. There was a character that came into play probably about the 60% mark shortly after I talked to y'all that was more interesting to me, and so it had me wanting to read on. But again, it's just a 3 stars. There are dragons in this book, of course, hence the dragon. People can bind themselves to animals, and each people kind of have their own animals they normally bond with. The Dansk people are the only ones that have dragons and know how to bond with a dragon. And so, of course, everybody wants to know the secret of bonding with a dragon. That is a very high-priced secret. So when the prince of this country that's bad and has taken over a lot of people, they decide to align with the Dansk kingdom, and the Dansk people are going to, of course, bring them the secrets to dragons. And then, of course, some treasonous things happen, and Jai, our main character, is whisked away. He escapes with the Dansk handmaiden, and he steals a dragon egg, and it goes from there. Okay, nothing I said was a spoiler. I read the blurb to make sure, the synopsis to make sure. Again, I think this is more, it was very predictable. It was a very predictable fantasy. I think this is a great fantasy for somebody who likes character-driven novels and maybe somebody who's just getting into fantasy. I don't think there was anything new or original that this story brought, and I think that that's what hindered me from giving it a higher rating, because again, pacing was slow. The characters were okay, but not my favorite, and you know, overall a predictable story. So 3 stars. I may continue on, or I may at least try the second book to see if I'm interested in it. It did just come out in April, but we'll have to see. But that's going to be all for this video. I read some interesting books out of the backlist jar, and next week I will be doing a different jar, and I'll see you next week.